guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Catherine and I make videos about dyeing, sewing, and upcycling. If that sounds like something you're into, be sure to hit the subscribe button. So today I'm going to be dyeing some fabric with an ice dye technique. I have a lot of ice dyeing videos on my channel and I will link that playlist down in the description below if you're looking for more inspiration. But most of them are with already made garments. So today I'm going to be working with fabric. I'm going to be working with yardage that I'm going to sew into a garment. If you're a subscriber to my channel, you may already know that I'm doing a series where I am making my maternity wardrobe. So I'm going to be working with a medium weight jersey knit that is stretchy, and my plan is to make a sweatshirt out of it. I found a pattern that I really like and I have in mind, so I cut the exact amount of yardage that I will need for the pattern, and I'm going to ice dye it today. Before we get started, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, and then we're going to go over the supplies. As always with my supply list, everything is linked down in the description below. I'm going to start out with 3 yards of pre-washed cotton fabric, rubber bands, soda ash, a stir stick to stir up my soda ash, a plastic tray to dye my fabric, Procyon dyes, a dust mask. I need ice. I'm going to be using about 6 to 10 cups of ice. It depends on how much fabric you're dyeing. Ice trays, gloves to protect my hands, and Synthropol for washing my fabric. I like to also use a drop cloth to keep everything tidy. So I'm going to start by starting to scrunch my fabric. You can see I'm working with a lot of fabric. I couldn't even fit it all on the table. So I'm just going to start by doing a high scrunch. I want to try to make sure all of my scrunches are about the same height, and I want to work evenly throughout the fabric. You can use this scrunching technique for t-shirts or sweatshirts or anything that's already pre-sewn. But when I teach workshops, a lot of people are dyeing yardage and they always want to know, should you dye the yardage first and then sew something, or should you sew something and then dye it? It's really up to you what you want to do. I prefer to dye the yardage first because that way I can cut from the best parts of the dye. And also, if it doesn't turn out, I can re-dye it before I bother sewing something. Sewing is so time consuming, and I just want to make sure that it's going to turn out right. So I've just worked my way through this entire piece of fabric. It's a huge piece of fabric, and I'm just systematically going and putting rubber bands on. I want it to be tight, but I don't want it to be like a huge wad. I want to make sure that the water and the ice can drip down through those folds and get into the nooks and crannies and give my fabric a nice even dye. So I'll just kind of keep going with the rubber bands and getting it all sort of bound up. If you're interested in learning more about dyeing, I encourage you to check out my website and to sign up for my mailing list. I teach a lot of online dyeing workshops, and if you're on my mailing list, you'll always see the new dates and the new classes coming out. So once I get it nice and bound up, it's ready to go into the soda ash solution. I'm going to mix up my soda ash solution. I'm using a stock pot that I only use for dyeing, and I'm using about 1/4 cup of soda ash. I'm going to get it nice and mixed up, and then I'm going to put my piece of fabric in there and just make sure it's covered. I'm using hot water here. I'm going to let this soak for about 15 to 20 minutes. Next, I'm going to get my ice ready. My favorite ice trays are these silicone ice trays because they're really easy to pop the ice out of. Hey guys, so now I am going to put my ice dye together. I have all my supplies here, and I'm going to put the camera up top and show you how I'm going to put it together. So I'm going to set up my ice dyeing area here, and I recommend using a drop cloth and doing it in an area where you can get things kind of messy. I always try to work really clean, but sometimes things do get messy. Next, I'm going to put on my dust mask and my gloves. I just want to say a quick disclaimer. I'm currently pregnant and I have talked to my doctor about taking precautions. This is not meant to be medical advice, and if you are currently pregnant and dying, I suggest you talk to your medical professional. So I'm starting by squeezing out all the excess liquid from the soda ash solution, and I'm going to place my piece into this plastic tray here. Next, I'm going to start by covering it with ice. I'm going to be using all the ice I have in my bowl here, and I'm going to position the ice on top of the fabric. It doesn't really do any good for it to be next to the fabric. I want to make sure it's on top of the fabric, because the way this is going to work is the ice is going to melt and drip down onto the fabric. So I want to make sure it's really on top of the fabric. Next, I'm going to start to add my dye. I like to use these plastic knives because they're really easy to get small amounts of dye onto the tip and just sprinkle. I'm putting it in clumps, and a little bit will do you when it comes to dye. This is a wisteria that I'm starting out with. And next I'm going to do a brush steel. These are really beautiful colors. They split really nicely. They're from Dharma Trading. I'll put the link down in the description below with the colors that I'm using. Like I said, I have a lot of ice dye videos on my channel using different colors and inspiration, so you should go and check those out if you're looking for other color combinations. Next, I'm using a little bit of the olive drab, and I'm just being very sparing with this. This is the most powerful color of the trio, and I don't want to overwhelm. Now I'm coming back in with some more wisteria. The wisteria has like notes of pink in it, which is really nice, and it's very light. You do need more of the lighter colors when doing ice dyeing than the darker colors. So I always keep that in mind. So now I'm going to just let it sit for 24 hours, and I'm not going to touch it, which can be very tempting to touch. Do not touch. Let it just sit and melt. So it's been sitting overnight and it's looking all melted. There's a little bit of ice on the top there, but I'm going to take it out because I don't want it to get too saturated. So let's head over to my slop sink. So I'm just going to dump out the excess dye and ice runoff. And as you can see, the back is pretty white still. So this can happen with a high scrunch, and I decided that I want to dye the other side too. I want this fabric to be pretty dynamic. I don't want it to be too murky. So I like the idea of doing a little bit on the front and a little bit on the back and keeping those whites really white in between. So I'm just going to repeat the process that I did before, add ice and add the same colors in the same fashion onto the back of this fabric. I was running low on ice, so I propped it up on one corner so that everything could run onto the fabric that is in the bottom corner. So here it is. It's going to melt for another 24 hours, and I'm going to let it sit and do its thing. Okay, so it's been sitting for about 48 hours now, and I am going to take it apart. So I'm just going to dump out the excess dye and start to take the rubber bands apart. These rubber bands are really tangled. I thought maybe I could salvage them and reuse them for another project, but in the end I just had to start cutting them because they were just totally disastrously tangled. So you can see some of the pattern here. The scrunch will give you a lot of white and then also like saturated color where the dye was hitting the fabric. I'm really happy with the way it looks, but it's like you can't see it until you actually wash it. So I'm gonna just rinse it. You can see there's not that much dye runoff. I'm gonna just wash it in this sink until the water runs clear with cold water, and then I'm going to put it into my washer with hot water, and I'm going to use Synthropol, which is also known as dyer's detergent, while washing it. Synthropol keeps the whites white and the dyed parts dyed, so it's excellent for washing dyed fabrics, and I'll put the link down in the description below. So now I've got this piece of fabric totally washed and dried, and I think it turned out really beautiful. Let me show you some close-ups of it. It's a really big piece of fabric, but you can see it has some really nice color splits. Really nice olive and gray going into the purple, and it's really nice. I really like this color combination of the lavender with the olive. Lavender is the Pantone color of the year, digital lavender. So I think we're gonna see a lot of lavender this year. I'm already seeing it everywhere. And it's just a really pretty color for spring. Like I said, I'm gonna make this into a hoodie. So be sure to subscribe so you can see the next video where I'm going to talk about sewing this fabric into a hoodie. And I'm so excited to have a new hoodie in my wardrobe. If you like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to follow me on my social medias at Onyx Art Studios, and check out my website for my mailing list and my online dyeing classes. If you like this video, be sure to check out these playlists for more inspiration. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys next time.